Welcome to Licking Non-Vanilla, a sex-positive hour of talk about kink, sexual mores, and writing dirty words. So grab a cup of cocoa, your favorite easy chair, and the lube as we go sailing into the dark, sweet waters of all things naughty on Licking Non-Vanilla with your hosts Ralph Greco Jr. and M. Christian.
Hey everybody, welcome to Licking Non-Vanilla with one of your hosts, Ralph Greco Jr., that's me, and the other of your hosts is M. Christian. Hello Chris, how you doing over there?
Hello Ralphie, good on this end.
Well, the reason and today I'm actually going to be saying Chris a lot because we have a Christian on today, so I don't want to get confused. We have Christian on today from Eden After Dark, and we're going to get into that, what they all do and what they're all about. We just want to say hi to everybody, and again, welcome to the show, another happy, horny podcast, and let's get into it. Christian from Eden After Dark. Hello, Christian from Eden After Dark. How are you, sir?
Hello. I am fabulous and trying to stay cool. It's very warm out.
We were just talking about that. Christian's in an undisclosed bunker in the wilds of Las Vegas, and it is hot in Las Vegas today, as it is in the summer. Christian, what's the hottest you think it's ever got there that you remember?
Oh shoot, probably like a buck 10, like a buck 10, buck 110, 111 that I can remember. But once you get 100, you don't even notice the difference. Hot is hot. It don't matter if it's dry, wet, or in between.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that 110 though, like you don't even want to get your car out there, you know, Chris. You don't even want to drive around out there with your car.
No,
at 110.
The funny thing is, when I first moved here, somebody said, "Oh, you got to crack your window in the summer." I'm like, "Why?" They're like, "Well, if you have a new car, the window will pop out." I'm like, "You're kidding!" And then I saw it happen to somebody. I'm like, "Oh, okay."
It's amazing, isn't it? Like Chris, I don't worry about that stuff in New Jersey. I mean, you look like a little bit, it gets hot and buggy, but I don't worry about my windows popping out.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, the hot is hot.
Yeah, no kidding. So, Christian, can you tell us what Eden After Dark is? Can we get into that first so
Sure.
People can understand what it is?
Sure. Eden After Dark is a swing lifestyle group, a little bit different than most of the others. It specializes or focuses on kink and LGBT. Whereas the other, whereas a lot of, and I'm noticing a new trend where a lot, especially out here on the West Coast, where some will, and I might sound a little pessimistic, slap an LGBT-friendly label on their stuff. No, that's the meat and potatoes of our... It's not that it's a LGBT event, but that is our primary focus, kink and LGBT.
Interesting. Okay, that's interesting because you're finding that there is a need for that, and or that people are saying they are LGBT focused but aren't.
Yeah, you almost hit the nail on the head. There is a need for it, particularly for bisexual men. The lifestyle does not embrace bisexual men at all. Now, if you're a woman, it's okay. It's come on down. It's like The Price is Right. Come on down. But if you're a man, and a lot of men, even if they admit that in the lifestyle, that's it. You're out. It's all bad. I get probably 4 or 5 just random emails from non-members from men in a week. And they'll say, came across
Christian, did we lose you, buddy?
Thank you so much for doing this. My wife and I have looked for other groups that allow bi men.
Yeah, I think so.
And there are none. And I'm afraid to even go to a
Christian
and just be myself. And I'm like, that's fantastic. That's exactly why I started all this.
Let me text him.
Yeah, that was weird. He just vanished.
Yeah. Hold on. Mark, do you see anything on your end?
I'm still here.
Oh, there he is.
I'm here.
You there, Chris? Christian?
Yeah, must have been interference from God knows what.
I'm sorry.
No
okay, so let's just pick it up what we were talking about. You're saying that the community is not always so welcoming to the kink community is not so welcoming to LGBTQ male.
Well, not so much the kink community, the lifestyle. The kink community, which is a subset of the lifestyle
we lost him
community,
again.
is more often than not
We lost you again, Christian.
accepting, but
Christian.
the lifestyle community as a whole is not.
Must be Christian.
Yeah, I'm still here. Looks like we're having connection issues.
Yeah. Okay, try again.
Go figure. The lifestyle community in general is just not accepting of bi men, at least not openly. What's funny is that when you get it behind a closed door, all of a sudden everybody's cool with it. So it's real interesting.
And you find that across the board, like state to state, city to city?
Well, I can't say I've not been to all 50 states, but
Right, no, of course.
I've been to a fair few. Of course, in the Bible Belt, that's probably completely different.
All bets are off.
Yeah, any state that's red is probably going to be a little like, but
Right.
in general, yeah, just across the board. If I was going to generalize, again, if you're a woman and you're however you identify, bisexual, trisexual, quadrisexual, whatever it may be, you're good. You're good.
Right.
If you are a man and you admit that, to be blunt, you're screwed. You'll never, ever, it's all bad. So I wanted to change that, and quite honestly, the LGBT community is pretty fucking fabulous. They have the best parties, the best drinks, the best everything. So
best clothes,
the best fashion, the best pretty much everything. So I was wanting to kind of meld lifestyle and LGBT together, and you know what? Let's throw a little bit of kink in there while we're at it, because that's always fun, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So as far as I know, and this may not be accurate, but as far as I know, we are the only group in the country whose focus is kink and LGBT.
Oh, okay.
That's wonderful. I applaud that. That is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And where do you have your meetups?
Meetups, events, the ballroom, everything. Okay, so we do vanilla events. Vanilla being, nothing sexual. We do vanilla events, usually since our focus, and we're not limited to, but since our focus is LGBT, I usually have them at a gay establishment here. There's a newer establishment in Vegas, which is awesome and killing it, called The Garden. It's in the Arts District. Eduardo Cordova is the owner there. It's really sexy. It's very West Hollywood. So I was like, and the name, The Garden, and then my name, Eden After Dark. I was like, okay, it kind of plays. So we'll do vanilla. We'll do vanilla meetups there, where we, have cocktails, chat, bullshit, that usual thing. As far as the events, the main stage, if you will, right now what we do is hotel takeovers, or I'll grab a penthouse at some of the casinos on the Strip, the larger. Fancier ones. I will not say their names for reasons, but I'll buy a 2-story penthouse with several adjoiners, and a lot of people prefer that over to an entire takeover, because those penthouses, well, you've been to Vegas. They have baby grand pianos, staircases. Yeah, so it's more upscale, and it's more classy. Gentlemen, I don't even ask them to, but a lot of gentlemen will show up with Oxfords and shine shoes, that kind of gig, and they're not asked to, but they do.
That's cool.
So it's kind of like a clubby environment, but a lot of penthouses on the Strip. I'm working towards getting an on-premise. In fact, I've got a couple offers in to get an on-premise, and then once that happens, sky's the limit.
And how often were you? Because the last year kind of threw us into a bit of a tizzy. But how often were you conducting, having to get together? Well,
I'll tell you, I was doing this unbranded, just for fun, for a while, a good long while, years. And then one day, an ex-girlfriend, whose name will go unnamed, I call her the Coont. For reasons.
That was nice, Chris.
Yeah.
He calls her the Coont. So I don't know what words he's putting together there, but I don't even want to know.
It's fitting for her. Anyway, I digress. She was like, you should brand this and make something of it. And I have other companies. I run a virtual assistant company where all my employees are out of the Philippines. I go to Manila about 3 months out of the year. And my corporate holdings is called East of Eden Group, which is a biblical reference. Yeah. I was struggling with the name. She's like, you should brand it. And we were sitting there, and she's like, well, let's call it Eden After Dark. And I'm like, that's fucking brilliant. There's no way that domain name is available. It's not possible. Someone's clearly swooped that up, and they're like, domain squatting or who knows what.
Right.
So I turned around in my chair, got on GoDaddy. I'm like, holy fuck, it's available and it's affordable. I'll take that.
Wow.
Now, the funny thing was that domain name used to be some bunk webcamming site back in the late 90s, come to find out. Go figure. I'm like, well, it was the appropriate name then, I guess, kind of.
Right.
So it kind of got into that. And then to answer your question, the Rona. The good old Rona.
Yeah.
We were doing events.
The vid.
Yeah.
The vid.
The vid. That's good. I'm going to keep that. The vid. I call it the Rona. Vid. The vid. I like that.
The vid.
We were doing events pretty much monthly, consistently. I almost got trapped in the Philippines because of the vid. Had I been there 2 more days, I'd still be locked down there.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Yeah, so I bit the bullet there. Of course, during the Rona, the vid, that bitch, we had to calm it down, as every lifestyle group in Vegas did, whether it was on premise or off. Vegas was locked down pretty tight for a while there. All the casinos even turned the lights off at night. It was all bad.
Oh, yeah, no.
So we didn't do basically nothing for almost a year. And then came back with a monthly. And then for a few months, I started doing twice a month. And then they couldn't decide, what the rules were. So I was like, okay, let me take a pause, because that also allows me to do a few things operationally. But now we got some exciting news with somebody who a little birdie told me is going to be on your show in the next week or two. Miss Coral and Jewel over at Hanky Panky.
Oh, yes.
I just spent the last weekend in Palm Springs with her at a clothing optional resort called Tuscany, which was very cute. And her and I are going to be working on some things. And to my knowledge, it'll be the first time 2 lifestyle groups have worked together, because so often they fight each other, which is some nonsense.
Yeah, what's the reason for that?
Honestly, I think on the West Coast, I'm originally from the Midwest, from Omaha, and there we would just do it. We would just work together in common cause. On the West Coast, it's very dog eat dog, get over on your fellow man, which is some complete nonsense. And that's what I like about Coraline. She's nice. She's lovely. She's like a kitten.
Yeah, I think so.
She's like a kitten chasing a laser pointer, because she's got so much going on. But
absolutely. What's cool about her, like, she used to be a professional skater, right? I mean, and I was on her show. Well, I recorded a show with her about a month or so ago. It's not going to be on until July, I think. But and like you said, we are going to have her on. She is a hoot and a half, man. She's so much fun to talk to.
She's a lot, and I'll let you.
Yeah, she comes right at you in all the best possible ways. She's just she's all that in a bag of chips,
Oh yeah, she's a lot of fun, and you can read between the lines however you like.
Right.
But no, and what I like about her, she's got so much going on, and that's why when we were talking about doing different things, I'm like, she's really she's, as the gays would say, she's that bitch. She's really got it going on.
Oh, she does. Amazing amount of things she's got her hands in. I mean, just like she's.
Know. She's got. Yeah, she was a figure skater going to the Olympics. She's got a book. She was a legal brothel.
I know.
She was a legal brothel worker in Nevada for a while. She's done porn. She has her big ass.
She's crazy.
I'm like, Jesus Christ! I don't have that kind of energy, and I'm not. Well, never mind. I'm not her age, but okay, moving on.
Yeah, she's a mommy too.
She's a mother. Yeah, she has teenagers. I'm going to be 4th of July weekend. I'm going to see her again. I'm going to go stay down with her at her house in Temecula for a little bit and go to Palm Springs. But we're going to partner on some things here soon and just try to take over the world, more or less.
Oh, why not?
That's very exciting. That's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, Chris, because Chris goes way back with the San Francisco scene way back in the day. Back before electricity was invented, and I always go back. I always use him as a reference for the West Coast, because I'm here in the East Coast. Yeah. So I always go back as a reference to that. And Chris. So it's my Chris. When you hear about
it's even more confusing.
Right. Yeah, I know. Chris, when you hear about what Christian's doing here, I mean, I would, you'd like to think that years ago, all this stuff would have been like competition and, allowing for gay men, bi men. Like you like to think all that stuff would have been, just accepted and easy, you know. But it doesn't seem like it. Like he's saying, it wasn't. You know, what was your experience on the West Coast in San Francisco and all this kind of stuff?
Well, first of all, I think what you're doing with Eden is fantastic. I'm already ready to pack my bags and go to Vegas and give it a shot. I'm not much of a public player, but yeah, I mean, your energy and this whole thing sounds really exciting. But you know, I mean, not to go on too much, but you know, in the San Francisco area back in the late 80s, early 90s, it was such a small community. And so it really didn't, there really wasn't a tremendous, differentiation between various communities. So, you know, like there was like the Queen of Heaven parties that Carol Queen used to do. There are, of course, tons of BDSM parties, and they're always open to anybody. There's only a couple of groups that were female identified only or queer men only, but even they opened up their doors very often. And so we'd have like cross parties. Yeah. And so there really wasn't like, you know, us and them kind of thing. But part of it, I think, is just because it was a small area and a very tight little community.
Well, it's funny you'd say that, because originally how I saw all this playing out were separate parties for each little subset. So I thought, okay, we'll have the bi party where, you know, their couples come with their man or whatever. And then I'm going to do a men only party for the gay men. And then I'm going to do a lesbian party, which is ended up being interesting. And then I do a kink BDSM. Okay, that's your month. One every weekend. That was the original idea.
Right. Okay.
What I found as I started doing that is, okay, now all of a sudden, this little lipstick lesbian couple started coming to the bi parties, and they started coming to that party. I'm like,
crossover. It's like a crossover.
It's a crossover. So I'm like, why am I? I don't know a term for it. Like basically, like Jim Crowing it. Why am I doing that? You know?
Yeah.
So then I was like, you know what? No, it's just Eden After Dark overall. It's just there's no. I mean, we'll do a theme party for like whatever decor, but. Yeah, and then I still, because the ladies have to have this sometimes, I still do the ladies only night where I'm literally the only male on premise. And let me tell you, that's either fun or it's a shit show for me. Not the guest. For me, it's either really fun or it's a fucking shit show for me, because girls are demanding.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I once, and don't ask me how this happened because I wasn't one of them. I went on tour with the Chippendales in the 90s. And I went out when they did the date. They did some dates in the Midwest. And I was working for the booking agent. And I was in rooms like with 1,500 women and the Chippendales. And I'm telling you, women together when they've been drinking and they're getting a little, you know, it was dangerous to be walking around, because I was walking amongst the audience, because it was me and the sound man. That was it, you know. I was like, man, we're gonna get.
Well, that explains some of the photographs I've seen, Ralphie.
Ooh. Yeah, well, that's true, but it was a lot of fun. But at the same time, really, you got to watch your back, so to speak. You know.
Well, I wouldn't worry about your back per se.
Yeah, right.
I'd be worried about your front.
Yeah, right. No kidding. Well. It was, you know, at the time I was in my 20s, so I couldn't have been happier, but it was wackadoodle, you know.
I've never had an issue in the 5-ish years I've been doing this branded and unbranded. I've had one issue, and it was recent. So I think I'm doing pretty good. If in half a decade there's been one issue where I had to say, hey, you got to go. I think I'm doing pretty well.
You are doing pretty well.
That's a very good track record. That's excellent.
Yeah. Well, I get so. Christian, what are we not? Because Chris and I are on the straight end of the aisle here, straight hetero,
straight-ish,
allegedly.
Well, yeah, that's
hetero
the rumor.
Flexible, or you know, yeah. I mean, it's like I fall for anybody. So if I have a good connection, it's fair game.
He's so gullible. Just bat your eyes at him. He's going to go. But so what are we not understanding about the LGBTQ community in general? Do you think
that we don't have enough time to explain about that?
No, I realize that, but I mean, if you can encapsulate it,
that you'll never find a better group of people that are more entertaining for sure.
Okay.
Absolutely more entertaining. They're usually more understanding and agreeable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'm generalizing.
Yeah, of course.
They're just generally more fun, I would say.
Okay.
Amen to that one. I mean, my fondest memories were sort of like these wonderful big queer focused parties where it didn't really matter what you were or what you're interested in, but always had the wonderful energy and a lot of fun.
Yeah, just come as you are and do you. A lot of people always ask me, well, why do you go to gay bars here in Vegas instead of straight bars? I said, well, there's a few reasons. One, if I go to a bar here, a straight bar, let's say, what am I going to see? I'm going to go in there, I'm going to sit down, there's going to be some asshole playing a jukebox with, like, music I don't like, and two other dudes fighting over the same girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's typical straight bar. Now, if I go down the street to a gay bar, one, they all fucking know me because I've gone there so long. Two, I'll freely admit this, I have pulled more pussy out of a gay bar than ever have at a straight bar, never will.
Now, listen, kids, listen to that lesson. What Christian just told you.
By long and far. I mean, it's that's the spot. And then they have the best drink prices, the strongest drinks. They have entertainment. There are go-go dancers, male and female. They have drag. They have burlesque. They have everything. It's an experience as opposed to a straight bar where it's, again, some a-hole kicking the jukebox in the corner and I'm getting a drink. This is not my thing. Not my thing.
I agree completely. I mean, I've been to like 3 quote-unquote, well, actually, let's say not gay bars. And if there's a queer bar in town, I'm there. I'm absolutely, that's my hangout. We have one here in Eugene called Spectrum that until the pandemic, I would go there quite often.
Yeah, you can go to any major metro, and if you go to, I call them their gayborhood, you're going to have a good time. Like I went to November before, I went to D.C. For my vanilla job, and I was like, fuck, what am I going to do in D.C.? I don't know a single soul. I just walked into any random bar in DuPont Circle, which is their gayborhood, ended up being a fucking lesbian bar. Let me tell you, I had a good weekend. We'll just leave it at that. So, that's rounding back to your question. It's just more entertaining, more accepting, more genuine people. A big misconception is that if a man goes into a gay bar, if a straight man goes into a gay bar, he's going to just get, fucking pounced on. And no man is going to come up to you. The worst that's going to happen is they're going to compliment your outfit and maybe send you a drink. Big deal.
Let me tell you, if a gay man compliments a straight man's outfit, the straight man should be fucking complimented as far as I'm concerned.
He's doing something right.
Because gay men can dress, man. Let me tell you. So, if a gay guy finds you attractive, you're doing something pretty good because those guys can be really, really, really tight with their compliments, and I, so I'm all for that, especially with the dressing. A gay man who compliments the way you're dressed, you're dressed well. Yep. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is.
Eden After Dark isn't exclusive to the LGBT community. That's not all we do. But that is our focus, to have that space for, particularly the B in LGBT is what I said, for bi men to have somewhere that their wives can bring them and find other like-minded individuals. And 9 times out of 10, it's a couple. It's a male-female couple that are married, whatever, and the guy just happens to like men as well. So it works out for them, and they have a great time. It's fantastic. I think it's great. And like I said, I get messages from men all the time saying thank you.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, I know bi men often get a kind of have to still deal with a lot of biphobia and such in various communities. So I'm so glad that that's happening because that's a segment of the population that needs as much support as possible.
You're exactly right, and I'll give you an example, and I'll try to make it brief. I was at a LGBT establishment here in Vegas. I actually know the owner of this particular establishment. I met a woman there, did the thing, had too much to drink, did the one-night stand thing, blah, blah, blah. It was great. About 2 weeks later, I was in the exact same bar, sitting in my exact same bar stool.
Right.
This woman comes beelining in through the door, comes up to me, she's like, why didn't you tell me you'd been with men and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what? Like, I'm just kind of taken off. She pulls out a knife and stabbed me.
Oh my God!
Really?
Yeah, I still have the scar. She hit my floating rib, thank God, and it deflected. She stabbed me. She was like, "Now I gotta go get tested," and blah. I'm like, "It is." I forget what year it was. I'm like, "It's 2008, right? It's not 1981 anymore." Yeah. Like, what the hell?
That's insane.
Yep, it's still out there, and it's very heavily out there.
Well, there's kookies everywhere.
True.
Like You know,
And they're multiplying.
So, yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's right. It's like, bi people themselves are like caught where they get like, it seems like they don't get everything of the good, but most of the bad. So some people in various aspects of the queer community say, well, you're taking queerness away from us, you're co-opting it, or you're tourists or something similar. And then you get the homophobes, and you're right about the double standard. If you're a woman, oh, fine, dandy. But if you're a guy, male identified, then screw that. You have a real rough time.
Even within the LGBT community, it's like being a bisexual man is almost like being a third-class citizen.
It's interesting.
It's choose a side at whatever. What do you do? Yeah, it's very odd, but
Interesting.
I see that slowly changing, very slowly changing.
Oh yes, there's wonderful organizations, Ambi-Bi, or I think it's pronounced. Then there's also bi.org and so forth. There's a lot of good support groups about there. So
and with what you're doing, Christian, too. I mean, you're approaching it that way.
Yeah, and the two organizations that Chris just mentioned are actually linked on my site.
Oh, good.
Bi.org and Ambi. I was actually thinking of creating an Ambi group here in Vegas.
I think it's a great idea. I know they have like local chapters.
They do. That's kind of their whole model, but I don't know if I have the time to dedicate it to it.
So speaking of, first of all, let me tell everybody where they are. They're at Licking Non-Vanilla, and we're talking with Christian from Eden After Dark, and we're talking about Eden After Dark and the LGBTQ community and a whole bunch of other interesting things. But before we go any further, Christian, give us a little preview of what's coming up for Eden After Dark. What's happening and where people can find you. What's happening in the near future and where people can find you. I'm going to let them know that on our blog and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. But I want to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Sure. Did you just call me what'd you call me? Did you call me a horse?
No, I said you hung like a horse, buddy. Go ahead.
I mean, facts are facts, America.
I know. What are you going to do?
Yeah, it is what it is. You can find us, of course, on our website, which is EdenAfterDark.com, like the Garden of Eden, AfterDark.com. We're on every major social platform, Twitter, the Gram, the Book of Faces, all those kinds of things. We're on Cassidy.com, which is a lifestyle website that's actually their owners here live in Vegas. We're on SDC.com, which is a lifestyle website. Lifestyle Lounge, which is a lifestyle website. All of those. Well, also, we're on... anybody else in Vegas listening will find this interesting. We'll be on, if you just search for Swing Events in Las Vegas on Google, we're about to go from page 2 to page 1. I've been working really hard on that, so you'll be able to find it that way.
Well, that's great.
Yada, yada, yada. SEO. Oof, that's...
Yeah, that's the world I work in. That's how I know that world.
Yeah, I used to for many, many years. So we're creeping up there. And as far as what to expect...
what's coming?
Obviously, some big old partnerships with Coral & Jewel and Miss Hanky Panky. We're going to try to pretty much dominate Southern California. But if you're in Vegas, our typical events, you can check it on our website, on our events page. I'm going to do some more takeovers, some more penthouse parties. I do have 2 offers on an on-premise property, so opening our own club for those that don't know what.
Fantastic. That's so great.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to buy out the building for a bathhouse here in Vegas, and I have an offer in. And the entire upper floor is not furnished. I'm going to turn that into a big old dance floor. I'm really hoping he accepts the offer and retires. So we got some good stuff coming. Events, all the things. Our events have live entertainment. We have go-go dancers from some of the biggest clubs here in Vegas. A lot of the dancers from big shows on the Strip are key holders because we're members only. We haven't talked about that yet. So if you want to have an opportunity to come and play with Cirque du Soleil performers, and I do mean play with Cirque du Soleil performers, this is the only place I know of that you can do it. So lots of good stuff coming up.
So with things, kind of getting back to normal, how frequent do you think you want to get things up and running again?
They're up and running already. What I think I'm going to do for the next couple months, because Vegas has exploded. Everybody's coming here now. It's recovered way faster than we ever expected. Like it's rough. We're having like massive labor shortages. The airport has quadrupled in volume in a month because all the restrictions are lifted. Masks and everything is lifted on the 1st.
Right.
I'm going to, for the next couple months, do a event or a play party once a month, and then a vanilla meetup once a month. And the vanilla meetups are open to everybody, whereas the parties were members only, or key holders only is what I call them. You have to apply, yada, yada. That's what's going to go on the next couple months. And depending on what happens with Miss Hanky Panky, we're actually working with the owner of the Tuscany Hotel to do a takeover in Palm Springs of his hotel during Palm Springs Pride, which just announced that they are full on, no virtual, no nothing. It's full on. That's in November. So that should be absolutely amazing. Imagine having a
lot of crazy good stuff. Wonderful. That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's a lot. It's a lot, and I want more.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well, more.
Typical.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. So, well, we're gonna let Christian go off here, Chris, and then you and I are gonna wrap up. Christian from Eden After Dark, thank you so much for your time and your
it was wonderful.
Your positiveness and good words, and it was so great to talk to you.
You as well. Thanks for having me. And everybody just go to EdenAfterDark.com. There's even a live chat. If you just want to chat with me, it gets routed to my cell phone.
Cool. Look at that. Yeah. Man. You can get right to the horse's mouth, exactly. as I say again. Exactly. The horse hung mouth.
Who's even talking to?
Christian, you be well, buddy, and thank you so much. And when we get this up, we'll let you know.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Have a good day, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, Christian. So, Chris, that was Christian from Eden After Dark.
That was wonderful. That was fantastic. I wish him the best of luck.
Interesting guy, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I am all set to, fly down to Vegas because I love his attitude and I like the way he's inclusivity, and I like the fact that, it might capture that, those fun times I had, with the mixed parties and all that kind of fun stuff.
It seems odd to me, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen because it certainly does, but it seems odd to me in that community or any alternate, can we say community? If that we could use that word. Like, it seems odd to me that anybody would have any problem with anybody else. It just seems so odd to me.
It's very weird.
We've been in situations where we're not into that thing, but nobody's casting aspersions on anybody. Nobody's just looking down on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like out of all the communities that should be open to each other, it should be the alternate lifestyle kink community. Right?
Exactly. I don't understand it either, frankly. I mean, but it's just, biphobia, homophobia, transphobia. It's still, unfortunately, really prevalent in all kinds of communities. But I think it's also because of, there's all kinds of, we can go into this forever. I mean, this is a huge subject. Yeah. But, I mean, not to keep going on about the good old days, but once again, back in San Francisco, it was just a smaller community. And because there was such, kind of like cross-pollination, there was no sense of really being, their turf and our turf kind of thing. I mean, the only time that there was that kind of feeling was that someone wanted to create like a female identified safe space, for instance, or, something similar. But that was it. I mean, even then, like I said, many parties were cross-pollinated. So, you could go to one party and see, a couple that you saw at another party and that's another community and they're over there. But, I think it is getting a little better slowly but surely, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah. Well, first of all, don't call me Shirley. But secondly, I think you just hit the nail on the head. The wider the community, the more population, the more possibility for gookiness, right? Because you're just adding more people into the soup. The soup could get a little weird, right? I mean, but I like his approach, because his approach is he's just opening the doors for everybody, wants them all to come in, even especially at his straight parties, and just enjoy themselves and find each other and have a good time, which I can think of nothing worse but nothing better, basically. It's fantastic.
I completely agree. I love his attitude. And it's just like, I love the fact that it's so open and inclusive and so enthusiastic. I mean, I'm there. I think it'd be so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, next time we go out to Vegas, there's another place we're going to visit.
Oh, for sure.
Beware, kids. We're going to be out there sooner or later, and we're going to find you. Going to find you and spank you. Listen, you've been listening to Licking Non-Vanilla, I think. I'm not sure. That's just a rumor out there. We had Christian from Eden After Dark on today, and across the aisle from me, across the country, but not certainly not across my heart, is M. Christian, better known as Chris.
Yep.
And Chris, just a run. We don't do this often. What's going on for you as far as anything new publication-wise? Anything happening or anything?
Well, I want to throw it back to you. You've had some wonderful sales of science fiction stories lately, which is fantastic. That is so exciting.
Yeah, that's always fun, when we can do that and get something that's not specifically erotica. Like that's I have had 2 that just came out recently, and I'm very happy about them because, like you said, we don't get that happening all that often. What's happening with you?
It's kind of same as usual. I'm still writing for places like Kinkley and futureofsex.net. I'm going to do a presentation for ReaderCon, which I'm still working on.
What is that?
That's a science fiction convention back east in. It usually is held in Boston. This year it's virtual, and so I'm doing a presentation for them. Hopefully it'll come about. I've never done one like this, so it's a little nerve wracking. Aside from that, I mean, just kind of business as usual. It's weird. Like we talked about this before. It's like the world seems to be going through these little periods of like fallow and then flood, and it's not necessarily fallow. But
I think that's going to happen. That's going to happen for a while.
Yeah, until they get the world sort of like it won't get back to normal, but it'll get back to something close to it. So. Until then, things
slowly
are
but surely.
weird. But yeah, aside from that, I'm, hanging in there.
Well, let me tell you the places that I was, the new one that I was published in was called Narrative Paths Journal. The words Narrative Paths, PATHS Journal.com. That's one of my science fiction story, like Chris said, that just got done there, which was pretty cool because, again, we don't get that so often. Straight science fiction, right? Mm-hmm. We don't get that to happen. And then the other place I was published in earlier in the week was a place called Grand Falloon. Let me spell you that.
I love that.
I hate to do this.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but I hate doing this, but I'm going to give a shout out because what the hell, it's our show, right? GRANFALLOON.org. Grand Falloon. So you got my stories there. And Chris, where can people find your stuff on a consistent basis?
Well, my website's mchristian.com, but also on Twitter, you can see, like, I just had an article for Sex for Everybody and Future of Sex. So if you go to my Twitter feed, which is mchristianzobop, that's when I usually are posting things. I post on other social media, but not as often as Twitter.
Okay. And this show, Looking on Vanilla, is on various social media, Facebook and also Twitter. We kind of monitor the Twitter as much as we can, the Twitter and the Twatter. So I guess at this time we'll just wrap it up. We had a good show today. A lot of stuff to talk about and consider. And when we get this episode up with Christian from Eden After Dark, I will give you all his particulars so you can get in touch with those guys. So, Chris, thank you as always.
Thank you, Ralphie.
It's always great to see you and talk to you. And thank you, our eye in the sky, our big brother, producer, who's over there. Will not be named, but I see him. I can look at him. And we'll see you next time, kids, on Licking on Vanilla. Bye-bye.
And visit us on the web at www.lickingnonvanilla.com.